Join the Discord, like and subscribe. Now let's dive. From user Brittle Knight 1 year ago to r/RBI. Is there a Sarah missing? So I'm very hesitant to post about this because I don't want my friend to get in trouble at work for sharing this information with me. Here's the deal. My friend received a letter with 2 photos at their work about a week ago. It is at minimum very creepy and gives off serial killer vibes. They have already reported it up the corporation's security chain and local police department, as well as other agencies. But apparently the local police don't seem to take it seriously, and they told him to just send them digital photos of this letter and trash the real material because it went through the mail and would not be useful. So I begged for a copy and thought if anyone can solve this mystery, it's RBI. Here are the breakdowns: 1 letter and 2 photos. The letter is written on the wrong side and nothing is on the front of the paper. It mentions a Sarah and Hiawassee River, which is like 12 hours from where the letter was delivered. Both photos have a weird large 11 written on the back of them. They are both photomat-like paper, so printed somewhere and not a regular home printer. The envelope says it's from Atlanta. The address that I blurred out is in Middle America to protect my friend best I can. The following images are the ones that were attached to his post. Taking a look at the images the letters contain, we can see 4 things. 1, an envelope that has the address blurred out for the sake of OP's friend that found the letter. Number 2, the actual letter itself, which contains 13 lines of writing. In addition, there are 2 photos. One is a pair of goggles straight out of the neighborhood pool in 2007, and a picture of a car, which is not a Pontiac vibe as OP suggested, but it's actually a red Toyota Matrix. OP is right though that the car is clearly at a showroom of sorts, and according to some quick research, this gives us a time frame of 2003 to 2013, since the Matrix went out of production after that year. And we get extra confirmation that this is the car we think it is, because although there are a lot of Nissan logos in the background, you can see a Toyota logo on the car, and in the top right of the photo, you can also see another Toyota logo, which actually is helpful because it gives us a little bit more of an accurate date, because we can start looking at what model of Toyota Matrix this might be. So I threw this thing into Yandex, reverse image searched it, and had several results appear to me almost immediately that appeared to be from the same showing. Most prominently was this one. It's obviously taken from a different angle, but factoring for that and the darkness added to the image from reposting, everything seems to match up. The carpet, lights, and even the outfits of the people. And speaking of those, the fits suggest that the period this was taken in is closer to 2003 rather than 2013, as they match that era better. But for the sake of confidence, one of these images connected back to an old, unsecure website from the early 2010s that housed a nearly dead series of image files from a car showroom. And at first, because the photos of this car were gray, I thought we might be on the wrong trail, but after a little bit more searching, we found our culprit. And if this archive is accurate, what we are viewing is the 2003 Toyota Matrix at some sort of car expo from that period, meaning this image is likely dated to 2003. Interesting, but really important for later. The goggles by my research are just run-of-the-mill Speedo goggles and either have some currently unknown significance or are just some sort of frame of reference for what the letter says. Speaking of the letter though, let's give it a read now. Target department stores sell many high-quality products. The Speedo Boomerang swim goggles that will securely strap around a person's head even when a young woman is vigorously paddling a kayak through a canyon. Also the delicious bottles of Mountain Dew that are sold in the refrigerated coolers. A young woman named Sarah is vigorously paddling a kayak down the Hiawassee River. First off, ew. That's weird. Second of all, this is why I think the goggles may not be of so much importance, or at least not currently. The only thing from now that they could even remotely do for us is that if we had access to Target's records, we could maybe cross-reference for a woman named Sarah who purchased the goggles and then went missing, but alas, we are limited to the info we have. However, what I find most intriguing about all of this is that when flipped over, the pictures, as OP stated, are revealed to have 2 long black lines on the back of them, and initially, these do appear to be very large number 11s. But as one of the more erudite boomers in the Reddit thread commented, prior to the internet, there was a different kind of metadata to store important information like when and where an image was printed. And typically this information can be found written in 1 or 2 lines on the back of a photograph as a way of storing information like where, when, and sometimes even who requested the printing of a photograph. And by Xing this out, whoever sent this letter made it impossible to discern when and where this photo came from, leaving us with a dead end. So now let's turn to what the letters actually say. I don't think it's much of a jump that this letter is written in a malicious, possibly murderous manner, referencing a woman named Sarah who is no longer with us. And this conclusion seems to be the consensus amongst others investigating the letters as well. So let's assume that's true, or at least the most likely option, and follow that thread. First off, this is the Hiawassee River. It's 147 miles long and runs through 3 states, including Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia, with Georgia presumably being the same state that the target was located in. With that in mind, let's zoom into that area and see, just for our sake, if there are any missing women named Sarah in or around the Hiawassee River. And interestingly enough, there is a ding on the radar. She isn't listed on some databases because she was last seen in Tellico Plains, Tennessee, which is an area about an hour and a half from Hiawassee, Georgia, where the river is referenced as being, but for whatever reason, she shows up on the spot crime database, possibly because of some evidentiary link we may be unaware of. And I tried to find what evidence this may be, but I was unsuccessful. So for what we know is that there was a woman named Sarah who went missing in or around the Hiawassee River area. And Sarah was last seen on 5/3/2019 after a domestic with her husband, and since that day has been considered missing by the authorities. So if you have any information on her whereabouts, please contact the authorities. But for our purposes, Sarah is merely the beginning of a very strange series of events. Because 7 months ago, a user named Marion would post to r/ciphers a photo of another different letter sent to a Target store. However, this time the letter was sent all the way to the other side of the country to a Target near the Skokomish River in Washington State. Cryptic letter sent to store. Target department stores sell many high-quality products. The Speedo Boomerang swim goggles that will securely strap around a person's head, even when a young woman is vigorously paddling a kayak through a canyon. Also, the delicious bottles of Mountain Dew that are sold in the refrigerated coolers. A young woman named Avery is vigorously paddling a kayak down the Skokomish River. Can anyone tell me if this letter is a kind of cipher? There's another letter in a separate thread that has a different name and river highlighted, but always says the same thing. And as you may have noticed, this user is correct. These letters are almost identical, with the only differences being the location and the name of the woman. But what you may or may not have noticed is that even the shape of each line of writing is identical, and stranger perhaps to me is the numerical symmetry each letter contains, with exactly 13 lines. But what's also becoming thematic are spelling and grammar errors, much like those I would expect a child to make, or perhaps someone who isn't fluent in English. That or they are intentional for reasons we can get into later when we discuss some of the theories about what's going on here. Either way, the rest of the letter is written in pretty advanced English and maintains complete grammar and spelling norms throughout the letter, so the author doesn't seem like the kind of guy to make such a mistake accidentally. But what of the woman referenced in the letter? Well, like the last letter, I think it's worth checking to see if there's any missing women named Avery then. This is where things are gonna get weird. There are actually a few interesting candidates for who this could be. One was a woman who went missing in the Skokomish River near her home and is presumed deceased. One was of a suspicious death of an unnamed individual who disappeared in the Skokomish River in May of 2021, but the most revealing to me is the following. On March 26th of 2009, a 2-year-old boy named Avery Blakely went missing. Police believed he had wandered off from his front yard, and because his family was in the process of moving and packing up boxes, it is presumed that Avery wandered off and fell into the nearby Pine Creek, and there he met his end as the current was too powerful for him and there were a whole host of things to get caught in or on. In the case of Avery Blakely is most compelling to me because, number one, the letter references that Avery is a girl, but as we're going to get into later in the theory section, that may be because the letter isn't exactly what it seems. Additionally, Pine Creek, where Avery allegedly drowned, also does connect to the Skokomish River that the letter references. And admittedly, the story of Avery's disappearance doesn't quite read right, so foul play would not be all that surprising to me. Not to mention, the only evidence ever found of Avery was one of his shoes in the creek. Despite weeks of searching and even cadaver dogs being deployed, there was nothing. And just like that, with 2 of these letters, conversation grew around the mystery, but like so many, it slowly ebbed out of the public view. That was until 2 months ago when Smoke and Pepperoni made the following post to r/weird, and it reads as follows. Another weird letter sent to Target. My Target store in central Minnesota received this letter. Looks like there's been a few other stores to receive a letter like this. No return address, also from Atlanta. And so now we have a 3rd letter alluding to a missing person sent to a Target in America. I think it's obvious that we are beginning to see a trend here. Additionally, this letter also came with the 2 professionally printed photographs that, like the first letter, have the 2 black lines across the back blocking out the information necessary to see when and where they were printed. Interestingly, the comments of this post were filled with suggestions on skeezy ways to get rid of the Sharpie without damaging the information beneath it, and it looks like this user decided to try it but was unsuccessful, so I don't know if I agree that there was nothing beneath the Sharpie so much as the information might have been destroyed. Meaning that the author of these letters likely thought through people trying to remove the Sharpie, and may have taken some extra precautions to maintain the letter's security. So let's see what this letter says itself. It begins as normal, going through the typical rant, but the ending is once again different, and it says, a young woman named Ashley is vigorously paddling a kayak across Capitagoma Lake. Once again, the only difference here between this letter and the others is that the author changes the name and location, and this time uses 3 different highlighter colors instead of 1. Besides that, nothing else seems to change. Except that the author of the letter very clearly says that Ashley was paddling across the lake, whereas in the other letters he says that the people had been paddling down the river. This understanding of grammar suggests that the other incorrect usages of certain words words may mean more. And like all the other letters, there are cases of people going missing or being found deceased attached to the places listed by the author with matching names, including one of a woman named Ashley whose body was found in a variety of different places depending on which account you read, including Lake Capitagoma, which is weird that we can't pinpoint it, but we do know that by all accounts it was found near the water. If you've ever done any research into the morbid reality that is planet Earth, you may be surprised to know that many of the people who go missing or whose lives are forcefully ended get very little press attention. And so if you search hard enough, there are often things that pop out above the milieu of the internet and are very, very odd. And one of these phenomena that's become very prevalent as I make these videos are these little tiny articles from papers you probably haven't ever heard of that are some of the only evidence of these people ever having lived. And it's one such article that left me a little creeped out. It's simply entitled "Body Discovered Near Lake Capitagoma." In addition to that, there are about 4 sentences worth of information, and not even the gender of the corpse is given. It, however, was enough to give me cause to dig deeper because there was just something nagging at me about this. And so I searched for more specific reports, and it seemed that the case was never investigated. I was able to find 4 solid articles, including the one from earlier. However, none of them had much information, and they mostly just repeated themselves. From these 4 articles, though, what is clear is that the body of this individual had been so badly damaged that they could no longer be certain if it were male or female. Police refused to give any names, but would later come out saying that they were kind of sure it was a guy, but aren't really sure. And what's most alarming to me about this is that they deemed that no foul play was involved. Now, we don't know a lot about the case, but it does strike me as really strange as how many people just cease living at random in an extremely remote area of an already remote lakeside, leaving a body so badly damaged that the gender of the body cannot be identified with 100% confidence. Not many. Men and women obviously look different, and that's something that goes from the outside in, to the point that we have completely different bone structures in some areas. So I can't help but wonder what happened to this body to make it impossible for local officials to even identify its gender successfully. And for frame of reference, this is the lake the letter references and where this body was uncovered. It's huge, in the middle of nowhere, close to the border of Canada, and has a severe lack of people, making it a great spot for a covert killing. So at the very least, I thought this was an intriguing connection, and something to keep in mind. Really quickly, you guys, I'm going to interject here. There is actually a third letter that follows almost the exact same format, and in this case it details a woman named Sarah in the Susquehanna River. And once again, if you follow that rabbit hole, there is a Sarah that is connected to having gone missing in or around the Susquehanna River. But I don't want to necessarily dive into that one because I think it would be a waste of time compared to this next letter that I think you guys are going to find very interesting. User CJ Nader dropped on the r/target subreddit the following message. Here's one my store got a couple of years ago. And with that, everything we thought we knew about these letters gets thrown out the window. It's almost identical to the rest. The normal changes are present with the name and the location shifting, but what's different are that the highlighter marks are missing, and there is an addition that reads as follows. An abandoned ice cream truck, 1974 AM General FJ8A, parked in a junkyard in a vast, remote, barren, sandy desert. That is a very oddly specific reference, and from a little bit of research, this is the model of the truck in question, and it's the pinnacle of ice cream trucks, bringing back some memories of summer days long forgotten. But also, it makes me wonder if there's an abandoned ice cream truck hiding a body or something else entirely. And it's worth noting that Tuskegee Lake and the surrounding area host a lot of possible candidates, including more than one Stephanie who met her end in the waters of North Carolina. Additionally, this letter was accompanied by the typical picture of Speedo goggles, along with this image, further suggesting that water is involved somehow. But alas, there are 1,000 ways to look at this mystery, so let's dive into some of the theories of what may be going on here. And the first is what I think a lot of us are inclined to believe, including myself, and that's that these are the letters of a deranged serial killer seeking to give clues about his actions and whereabouts in order to gratify some lust for fame and intrigue. Honestly, it's not that outlandish at this point, as every single one of these letters in one manner or another can be connected to the death of at least one individual. Moreover, no matter what, these are certainly not the letters of a mentally well-grounded individual, so something odd must be going on. And it's not as though it would be anywhere near the first time a serial killer has done something like this, as in leaving cryptic letters and clues to who they are. Theory number 2, the letters are hiding something deeper. Whether it's a serial killer or not, it doesn't really matter for this theory because these letters are clearly hiding something. The fact that every letter maintains the exact same physical structure, has the same number of lines, highlights, and references things like women and Mountain Dew, and the images that are attached also can't be ignored, for instance the Speedo goggles that are posted with every photo. Even the last letter we uncovered maintains almost all of these characteristics despite being at least a year older than the first letter that surfaced online. Additionally, the references to both body bodies of water and American Indian names is an odd coincidence, especially considering tribes have some of the highest cases of missing people in the country. And then the photographs, they clearly don't have any immediate justification for why they are there. They're the sort of thing that one could only understand if they had prior knowledge of what the letters are for, and it's possible that they are the key to all of this, as I highly believe these letters are encoded ciphers that when decrypted are giving us a much different message. Additionally, it's pretty clear that whomever created these letters wanted to ensure that their identity wouldn't be discovered by outsiders if these letters wound up in the wrong hands. So they removed any identifying marks from them by sharpening out the metadata on the back of the photographs. All this to say is that my wager, as we briefly touched on, is that the picture of the Toyota Matrix at the car show is actually a reference point symbolizing the date and is involved in the code somehow. I really can't even begin to guess, so let me know your thoughts down below. Theory number 3. This is but one small piece of the puzzle. Reading through the post, we can be honest, we get the vibe we're missing something. It feels like we're staring down a puzzle, trying to figure out what it's supposed to look like, and we've only got 4 of the pieces and the rest are missing. And in this case, I think it's true. There really is no reason to believe that these 4 letters are the only ones. In fact, we would like to believe quite the opposite, especially when you consider that the user who posted this last letter we discussed originally received his in 2023. And if you think back, what the original poster told us at the beginning of this video is that the police had told the Target store's leadership to destroy the physical letters, meaning it's likely that if any other letters had existed, they may have been destroyed and we are looking at only a fraction of what is meant to be. And we also have no way of knowing when these letters began. It could have been 2023, or it could have been 1993 or 1983. We really don't know. But I am hoping that this video is seen by some former or current employees that can give us some more insights into what might be going on here, because if we can map this thing all the way back to the start, we may have a chance of picking our way through and figuring out and getting a grip on what's going on here. So let me know if you know anything down below. Some people think this is an ARG, which is so short-sighted it's become the excuse for those who are unwilling to think. I mean, I have literal videos of my internet access being blocked to websites after I pointed out that they were CIA decoys, and people still call it an ARG. Shameless plug for the 4.com video, by the way. But to save time responding to the comments, no, this is not an ARG. There's no game. The cipher is literally indecipherable for anyone who does not know what they are reading. The letters were sent to random targets across the country, meaning there's no guarantee they would even end up online. And because of CJnator's post, we have solid proof that we are likely missing a whole host of letters, which would make it impossible to figure out what the ARG was aiming at if this were an ARG. In other words, just because we don't get it yet, or it seems like it's part of something larger, does not make it an ARG. And so I don't keep ranting about ARGs, let's go to what I think is going on here. Considering everything we know about these letters, I do believe that it is likely Target has come into contact with a deeply sickened individual who has direct connection to the deaths of several people. I also believe that we will not ever know to what extent his connection is and how widespread this thing is until we have received and uncovered more of these letters, which gives me a lot of hope. Lately, the channel has been growing a lot. Thank you, by the way, you guys. And we have the chance to reach hundreds of thousands now. And I hope that in doing so, somebody out there, and possibly even many somebodies who have either worked at or currently work at Target, will be able to share with us any letters like these they may have received. And from this, I think we'll get a better idea of who and what we are dealing with, because the letter that CJnator posted gave us a lot more to go on. It shows that this code being used has evolved with time, and perhaps as we move further back will become more obvious to us. And I know it may take a while, but I am really along for the ride for this and want to see this one through. And although we don't have the answers yet, I am really confident that before we're done here on this channel, we will know who authored these letters and possibly even who's behind these deaths and disappearances littered across the country. And so to help out that effort, I am going to dedicate a special segment on my Discord server that will house all the updates about this case and all the pertinent information. So if you're curious and want to contribute directly, make sure to check that out. Hey guys, I'm recording the outro on the move today because, well, I don't really have an actual space to record it. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments. Check out the Discord, make sure to join there and help out with solving this mystery. If you know someone or you yourself work at Target, definitely reach out and ask and send me any information you might have about this mystery. I also want to quickly thank Paul for his support, continued support. He's the man, and we really appreciate him. This week or next, we're going to be launching the Minecraft server for people who are on the Discord and the Patreon. So make sure to stay tuned for that. It's going to be very exciting. And I hope we get a bunch of y'all on there because I love playing Minecraft. Thank you to Chase. Link in the description to some of her stuff, but she's the one who filmed all those cool shots of the target. And we just really appreciate her. And guys, thank you for 20,000 subscribers. I had 10,000 a month ago, and now I have 20,000. You guys are the best, and I couldn't be more grateful. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see each and every one of you in the next one.